We're live from our studios here at Kokomlimle on digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Governing NPP declared majority in Parliament with Fomina following days of uncertainty and outright divisions. Today we'll take a look at the unprecedented and chaotic journey to the 8th Parliament as they prepare to work for the next 4 years. COVID-19 still taking lives. We take a look at the case count as government commissioned scientists at the University of Ghana to study the new COVID-19 variant and whether or not it is here in Ghana. We'll tell you what we know. Also, we go to Uganda, where incumbent President Yoweri Museveni leads in early election results, which his contender Bobby Wine has rejected. We have a Ugandan guest in studio for this story. And the pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. We're live on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. Remember, we're streaming also on YouTube and our other social media handles. Do send us a WhatsApp on 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andopia, and this is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Let's take you through the details of those stories and more. Now, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagwin, says the New Patriotic Party NPP caucus and the independent MP for Fomina constituency constitutes the majority in Parliament. This decision, according to the Speaker, is based on a formal letter by Andrew Sisiama Mwako notifying him, the Speaker, of his intention to do business with the NPP in Parliament. Before the Speaker made this declaration, the NDC caucus leader Haruna Idrisu insisted there is no clear majority in the House. Let's hear from both the NPP and the NDC side of the House.
As Parliament is concerned, produce an inevitable outcome of no majority in Parliament. 137 NPP, 137 NDC. Understandably, I'm informed that the distinguished member for Fomina has decided to do business with the NPP. Doing business, in my view, does not represent joining a political party, and I say so within the context of Article 97 and guided by that authoritative statement of Cross on rules on interpretation when he says the expresso unus rule. Independent is independent and political party is political party. But Mr. Speaker, whilst congratulating you, the Honorable Osei Mensah in the 7th Parliament had it easy because he had comfort of numbers. This time he does not. And he cannot procure nor add to it other than a cooperation and support from the member for Fomina, nothing more. So, Mr. Speaker, what you must understand, this site, however we are referred to, you will need us going forward. I didn't even reference portions of the Constitution, but any of you can read Article 11, 268, 174. It requires 2/3 majority. You don't have that. You will need us going forward. That is why you must tolerate and respect us no matter what. Going forward, the Constitution, I can mention 10 more. Mr. Speaker, I conclude on that note. I have said this because I know my colleague is very experienced lawmaker, that this Parliament, cooperation and consensus is compelling and an imperative. Did you want the obvious? Mr. Speaker, on matters relating to whoever whoever invited the military to the chamber onto the floor, going forward, we will demand an inquiry to it in order that it never ever happens, as you have assured. Because it's only democracies that have parliaments, and we have a duty jealously to protect our democracy and to grow our democracy. Parliament remains a forum, as I have repeatedly said, where right and wrong is debated. Mr. Speaker, the Ghanaian people voted in December that when we debate right and wrong, let right prevail and not partisanship. And that they want to see an end to the divisiveness in our country. They want to see an end to the polarization in our country. They want to see an end to the excessive partisanship of our country. And that we hold strong together our democratic values and ethos. Mr. Speaker, I can only wish you well, wish you every success, trust that you will moderate debate, impartial and neutral as you indicated, rule on matters of procedure. But Mr. Speaker, I cannot conclude without saying that this House, and probably I'm sure my colleague will touch it, we will have to take a rapid action on our rules of procedure and standing orders.
Of any leader in this House who has reached out to the other side, as I have done. My colleague, the Honorable Cletus Abuka is here. Mr. Speaker, you yourself, you are here. I will testify that in the history of this Parliament, if we open our eyes wide, we know the consultation. My colleague, the minority leader, the former minority leader, the Honorable Haruna Idrissa, would attest to that fact. And that is notwithstanding whatever people say outside. The Speaker, the caucus that I lead, and indeed the leader for the member for Fomena, is not oblivious of the constitutional provision relating to his doing business with the MPP caucus. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, he was very careful in his choice of words. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't amount to crossing carpet, what he has done. But doing business with the MPP caucus, understandably, gave the MPP caucus one more additional seat in the conduct of business in this House. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, and therefore, we would, without any equivocation, constitute the majority caucus in this House. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the minority leader on this issue about the approval of the new standing orders. Mr. Speaker, I was clear in my mind what we ought to do. And indeed, all the processes that we have adopted in approving standing orders in this House, beginning in 1983, never came to be subjected to Article 11, sub 7 of the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, it was for a good reason. It was for a good reason. It's the reason why all the standing orders were approved by motion in plenary. Mr. Speaker, if we have to go that route and apply ourselves to that vehicle, we may have problems. And the reason is this: that route quoted by my colleague would suggest to us that there must be a parent act from which would ensue regulations, instruments, and orders. The Speaker, that parent act of 1965 has no provision for the introduction of standing orders. It does not mean that if you have to go that route, Mr. Speaker, we may have to go and amend that parent act. And I thought that if we applied ourselves to the process that we had done, that would even shorten the route for us. Mr. Speaker, I believe if we apply ourselves to that route, within 2 weeks maximum, you should be able to adopt these new standing orders. And if members insist that we should go that route of Article 11.7, the Speaker will run into turbulence. And that is why I have always advised that we need really to apply ourselves to a motion so that we circumvent the process, as has always been done, and then we move forward to adopt the new standing orders, which, in my view, the Speaker would reposition Parliament in the conduct of business in this House.
So that's how the argument on both sides of the House went earlier today. Well, the Speaker has made a declaration on the matter. Listen.
Cooperate and collaborate with the MPP caucus in the 8th Parliament. Dated this 13th day of January. Dated this 13th day of January 2021. Yours faithfully. Signed, Honorable Andrew Esiama Amwapo, MP, Formula Constituency. And copy to the leader of the MPP caucus. Honorable members, with this official declaration to the House will accord him the space to do as he has stated. Whatever he said outside was of no effect so far as the business of the House is concerned. And therefore, he had to do it officially for it to be read and captured in the Hansard. And so what we have now, you have the new Patriotic Party wing or caucus in Parliament, together with the independent member of Parliament from Formina. And they now constitute the majority group.
I want to take you to Parliament Live right now. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is our man on the ground. He's joining me right now. Joseph, very interesting times in Parliament, I should say. So now help us. Let's break this majority dynamic down. Okay. What really did the Speaker mean when he said that the NPP has the majority in the group? It means that it comes with the Formina MP. Help us understand how this works.
So again, he was cautious about using the word caucus.
Okay.
So his point is that with Formina MP and Ramakwesiama in the NPP as a caucus, that amounts to a majority group, which would mean that the NDC still holds onto it 137. So the NDC caucus has 137. The NPP caucus has 137. the NPP caucus plus Fomena then constitute a majority group in the House going forward. And the interpretation some analysts in Parliament are putting to it is that, yes, it would allow the NPP plus Fomena to have a majority leader, but the Speaker was very categorical about drawing the distinction and making the point that the NPP caucus having 137 plus the Fomena MP and Ramokesiama then constitute a majority group in Parliament going forward. If you listen to the Speaker in the speech that he delivered, which lasted for several minutes, almost an hour, when he repeatedly wanted to refer to the NDC side and the NPP side, he repeatedly sought to make the point or desisted from using the wording majority or minority. And this was before the Fomena MP's letter was read. On two different occasions, when he made references to the two sides, he talked about how this was the NDC side, this was the MPP side, this was the side in support of government, this is the opposition side. But he deliberately, repeatedly did not use majority or minority. And then, even after when he was calling both leaders, he kept referring to them as the MP for Swame and the MP for Tamale South. Until eventually, then he went on to read the letter from the Fomena MP and then made the point that the NPP plus Fomena then constitute a majority group in Parliament going forward.
Well, Joseph, I guess that some people may see this as stating the obvious, and because we knew that the Fomena MP had indicated that it would be working with the NPP. But what really makes a difference right now, based on what we knew previously and what declaration the Speaker has made today?
For the MPP side, the interpretation they're putting on this is that now they have the right to call the leader of the NPP caucus plus the independent MP the majority leader. Although, clearly, on the NDC side, they are refusing the title minority leader for the leader of that group, Osei Mensah-Bonsu. But again, what we've seen is a deliberate effort on the part of the Speaker to then desist from using that terminology in terms of majority and minority leader. But the interpretation the NPP is putting on the Speaker's declaration is that this then gives them the opportunity to call their leader, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, the majority leader. Although the NDC side is insisting that their leader cannot be referred to as minority leader.
Very interesting times indeed. So does it mean that it has to be described? Okay, going forward, how do we describe this, the leadership? Do we describe them as the majority caucus in Parliament and move on? And even so, would you say majority caucus or minority caucus? I mean, I don't know. Is there a consensus on the floor?
Maybe at an appropriate time, when the Speaker has his comment and make reference to how they should call themselves, it may be a basis to then follow the Speaker's lead in terms of how he describes both sides. But clearly now the indication is that the NPP plus the Fomena is the majority. And mind you, he was very cautious about using the word caucus. What he did was to use leader to describe NPP plus Fomena, and he again desisted from using minority leader to describe even the leader on the other side, or majority leader to describe Osei Mensah-Bonsu. So then I'm tempted to think that with both sides still interpreting even what the Speaker said differently, we can all just wait and hear how the Speaker would refer to those two individuals, particularly the leaders on both sides, going forward, and whether he will be minded to use leader in describing the majority and the minority. Because, mind you, when you glance through the standing orders of Parliament, there isn't a specific explanation as to what majority caucus is and minority caucus is. The only explanation we have in the standing orders that references majority and minority has to do with and a section in Order 5 of the standing order that gives an explanation of what various technologies in the standing orders are. So it explains bills, it explains executive, it explains legislature, and then there it explains majority leader, be the leader of the group or the party with the higher numbers or parties with the higher numbers, and then explains minority leader to be the leader of the group with the lower numbers, and also serving as the opposition
So
to
Joseph,
incumbent government.
pardon me for jumping in here. What it means is that if the speaker rises today without necessarily addressing any of the sides as majority or minority, what do we stick with?
We are sticking with the fact that the MPP is the majority group. The speaker hasn't told us what the NDC side should call itself. The speaker hasn't told us about a majority leader in the House. He hasn't told us about a minority leader in the House. We'll see. Lead on that. We'll
see how it goes. But also something that takes my curiosity, Joseph, is the Asin North MP. There was a whole issue with that one, the court's ruling on that. But it looks as if we're sticking to the 137 for both sides. The NDC, if I should single NDC out because the MP in question is from that side. Is there anything happening around this over there in Parliament?
The Asin MP is actually in the House. He's been participating in proceedings all morning. The controversy around him came up again. After the long talk, there was the correction of the votes and proceedings, which is the official record of what transpired on the 7th of January. And there was a bit of controversy with whether the injunction that came was a writ or it was an order. And there was an attempt by MP for South Dai, Roxin Mafiamoko, to correct what the table office had captured as record of proceedings in the House, and indicating that he would want it corrected so that then whether it was an interim or an interlocutory injunction, it clearly reflects. When he sought to correct that, the response of the Speaker was that he wasn't there when it all unfolded. So the table office should take notice and correct the suggestions as has been made by the MPP. But he's being counted as an MP in the House. In this case, the Speaker's directive is based on him being inclusive as far as the NDC side is concerned.
I see. Joseph, I guess I will come back to you, but right now we know that the House is currently discussing the upsurge of COVID-19 cases. We'll be going live to the chamber, but Joseph, your quick thoughts or your quick wrap of what they have said so far.
A number of things. Alban Bagbin urged MPs to behave like honorables, even as they undertake the activities. He said he was grateful for all the support that he had enjoyed. He urged MPs to desist from the act that unfolded on the dawn of 7th January that led to his election. He condemned the chaos and said that MPs should avoid that there is never a repeat of that. He said that he was grateful for the bipartisan approval and went on to state, contrary to the claim of Osei Mensah-Bonsu, that he was elected by 138 votes and 136 for the person who contested him. He then went on to say that as Speaker, he will not yield to pressure to rubber stamp requests from the executive, and he will not yield to pressure to obstruct the business of government either, and that Ghanaians have given both sides equal strength in the House, and he wants the business of the House to reflect that. To touch briefly on what the leaders on both sides said when they responded to the Speaker's long speech, Haruna Idrisu said that under every circumstance, the NPP side would need them to get approvals in the House. And again, he went on to condemn the military invasion and said, because they would demand for an official inquiry. Mensah-Bonsu also said that he condemned the violence, the chaos of the dawn of 7th January, and said those acts were reprehensible and should not be repeated going forward.
Joseph, thank you very much. We're going live now to the floor of Parliament where, as we said, the upsurge in COVID-19 cases is the center of conversation right now. Take a listen.
Ghana Health Service is limited because one update they have never given is the revenue expenditure aspect of COVID-19. Because we do not know how much revenue has come in and how much this government has spent on COVID-19. And Mr. Speaker, we cannot win the fight against COVID if our interventions are not right. If we do not invest rightly and be transparent with our investment on this infectious disease. And therefore the call to come out clearly on what has come into the coffers and what we have spent the money on and for what is very critical in winning the fight. Mr. Speaker, what is happening now globally is that a new strain has come up. In Ghana, we do not know whether what we are battling with is the old one or the new one. We need an answer for that. And what has contributed to the situation of cases going up is that it's like during the campaign season, the heat of it, the discussion, the interventions, and almost all the preventive protocol aspects were relaxed. And therefore the people also relaxed. The vertical buckets, you don't have water. The soap you can't find. The sanitizers are for the rich now. So once we relaxed the protocols, then we are not surprised to see an increase in numbers of COVID in our health facilities. And we are not saying it. About 2 days ago, I heard the Director General of Ghana Health Service saying that in some of the treatment facilities, close to about 60% of the beds are occupied, meaning our health facilities are overstretched, and there's no debate about that. And this is the time we need to have transparent discussion on the management of COVID. We should leave partisanship. We should leave this one says from this party and this one comes to counter. That will not help us fight COVID-19. Other bodies like the Ghana Medical Association have come out also saying that there's a need to reinforce, the protocols on COVID-19 because they believe that now there's no regard for the protocols and there's no enforcement. People say that in Ghana we are good at making laws, but the enforcement of those laws is our challenge. And that is the same thing we're facing in COVID-19 because we know what to do, but the enforcement of what to do is a challenge. And therefore, I join police action for public education for us to go back, to obey the protocols, to abide by them, and to ensure that we win the fight together. More PPEs should be sent to our health facilities. Now there's no minister, and I hope very soon we'll get a competent minister for health, whoever that minister may be. A very competent minister. I don't know the person because I'm not the one to nominate, but I am calling for a competent minister to take us out of this trouble. Right, Honorable Speaker, we need more PPEs because our facilities are overstretched. They have no PPEs, and we need to push more resources to our health facilities to be able to deliver and to be able to help in the fight. Mr. Speaker, schools have reopened, and I'm concluding. Schools have reopened, and many are asking, whether we have prepared adequately to open schools. And that call is important.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Leader, right?
Mr. Speaker, with respect, my colleague is making a very good contribution, but there was an aspect where he said that there is lack of transparency in expenditure regarding this COVID intervention. But Mr. Speaker, for the record, Mr. Speaker, please, Mr. Speaker, factually, we have had the Minister of Finance coming to this House to report on these. The Minister of Health has also come here. So, Mr. Speaker, the terms of contribution under the item we are treating requires that we make brief comment and not get into the arena of debate. If you are being speculative by talking about lack of transparency, when we have reports in this House, unless your argument is to challenge the report and the figures, if you are not, then, Mr. Speaker, I humbly will pray that you order my colleague to get on the path of righteousness. That is, he should not continuously be arguing on that line because it's misleading and is not anchored on fact. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member may continue.
Thank you, right?
Please,
Honorable Speaker.
Just wind up. We have an important item to take. So please, if you may conclude.
Thank you, right, Honorable Speaker. In conclusion, and to emphasize and make myself more clear, I said the Director General of the Ghana Health Service and his colleague directors have been doing very well in giving updates. But what I find missing is updates on revenue and expenditure on COVID. And there's a need for us, all of us, to be transparent on the revenue and expenditure figures. So, Mr. Speaker, in concluding on the schools being reopened or about to be reopened, we don't think, or many people in this country doubt, whether our schools have been adequately prepared for reopening. And I'm saying that that call is right, and the government has to do very well to ensure that the necessary facilities, the necessary preparations are done at our schools before we reopen. And on the vaccine, what I would say is that as a country, as Ghanaians, we should not be afraid. We shouldn't be quick to say the vaccines are bad or good. Let's rely on the necessary authorities to ensure that safe and efficacious vaccines are brought quickly to ensure that the fight against COVID-19 is achieved. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Honorable members, this brings us to the end of statements. We will now move to, well, it's also coming in the form of statement. Item 4, by leadership, on the determination of the formula for the composition of membership of committees, parliamentary delegations, and other parliamentary groups and associations. leadership, are you ready to make the statement?
Speaker, I've been in consultation with my colleague, the Honorable Member in charge of the NDC caucus in the House, in respect of the formula for the composition of membership of committees. Mr. Speaker, we have related to the prime committees to be formed, not parliamentary groups and associations for the time being. At an appropriate time, we shall deal with that. We have been in consultation, and we've arrived at some conclusion. Unfortunately, I've just been informed that my colleague has had to travel out to Tamale because of the transition of an uncle of his. But that indeed represents the state of affairs now. So I guess if it's agreeable, then I could present the paper that we have written and submit same to the House. But first, plenary discussions, I guess, is what they've written here as statement. It's really relating to the course of events, respect to the discussions that we have had relating to the determination of the formula for the composition of membership of committees in the House. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much.
Yes, the available leader.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, per the consultations of leadership as I'm aware, and looking at the numbers as we have now, I don't see the difficulty in the computation of the figures, given the 3 committees that we have to be constituted as soon as possible. Especially the committee on selection, of which you are the chairman, is clear, which is going to be composed of 20 members. Given the numbers that we have, I think that committee has to be put in place, and the numbers either 137 or 138. If you have 20, it will be 10-10. After which, if leadership will have to go into conclave again and come out with the ratio which I know is conspicuous and known. 49.8 and 50.1 is 50-50, approximately, to the nearest whole numbers. We learned this one when we were in elementary school. So we have no difficulty in computing that mathematics at all. The 2 other committees, Mr. Speaker, will be appointment committees, which is 26. And if it is 50-50, will be 13-13. And the business committee, which is 20, will be 10-10. So, Mr. Speaker, in order not to waste time, we have to put emphasis on the committee on selection, of which is going to be 20 members. And I agree with the leader when he says we have to do that one first. So without wasting much time, I think the committee of selection will have to be constituted. The formula, which is so conspicuous and known to everybody, will have no difficulty in computing at all. So with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I raise my case.
Honorable members, we now move to the commencement of public business. Item 5, laying of papers. A, by the leadership of the House. 5A, Roman 1. Report of leadership on the formula for composition of membership of committees and the committee of selection. Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, as the Deputy Whip for the Speaker, as the Deputy Whip for the minority has indicated, we spoke about it and agreed on the formula, which then informed us on the composition of membership of the committees, in particular the Committee on Selection. So, Speaker, I would bow to that as agreed upon, and then so I'll submit that one and go to do B. A, Roman number 2, is not going to be attended to now because, Mr. Speaker, the composition of parliamentary delegations and parliamentary groups and associations has not risen yet. But this one affects 5A1, and I'll go on to do 5B.
Is 5B ready?
Yes, both A1 and B, they are both ready.
Honorable members, the report of leadership on the formula for composition of membership for committees and the Committee of Selection duly presented to the House, and copies should be He did. Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I thought I laid the report, but I guess some of the colleagues didn't get the import of what I did. So I may want to do so again.
Report of leadership on the formula for composition of membership of committees and the committees of selection.
Laid copies to be distributed to members. 5B.
Report of the Committee of Selection on the composition of the appointments and business committees.
The paper has accordingly been laid and is for distribution to honorable members. Yes, Honorable Member, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I guess there is a bit of a mix-up. I thought B related to the Committee on Selection. My attention has been drawn to the fact that it relates to appointments and business committee. So 5B is not ripe yet to be laid in the House. So let me accordingly withdraw what I did. So we're going to have to deal with just 5A. A, Roman number 1. A, Roman number 1.
You are saying 5B?
No, 5B.
5B.
The time has not arrived yet with respect to 5B. When I read, when I saw Committee on Selection, I thought it was a Committee on Selection report. Apparently it's captured under 5A1. So 5B should be considered undone.
Honorable members, the paper on 5B has accordingly been withdrawn. I
I don't know the pleasure of the House now. If the House is minded to continue, I may have to suspend sitting for some minutes. Speaker, I believe we can quickly deal with items listed as 6 and 7 and conclude business for the day. The 6 is procedural, but I know your difficulty and challenge. If you want to suspend for about 2-3 minutes to do what needs to be done, I guess we'll wait patiently for you. But if you think you can resist and indeed tolerate us for about 10 minutes, I believe we can bring this thing to a closure. Honourable members,
Those are live visuals coming to you from Parliament, where you see in your shots right now the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, of course, flanked by the men who help him in the House. And they're deliberating on taking a quick break, but perhaps a few issues that they can deal with before they go on that particular break. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is on the ground with us. He'll be joining us so we can have a bit more of discussion. But so far, what we know is that the Speaker has indicated or declared that the NPP plus the Fomina Member of Parliament, who is an independent candidate, constitute the majority group in Parliament. What has not been done so far in the proceedings is him referring to any of the sides as majority or minority. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo tells us we have to hope that afterwards, when this particular meeting rises, he will do so. We're looking out for that. They've been talking about COVID-19. They're having concerns about how much we have spent so far on COVID-19 protocols and all the interventions that we've put in the COVID-19 fight. Well, let's go back to Parliament right now.
Leadership of the House. Speaker, I beg to move that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 81, which require that no motion shall be debated until at least 48 hours have elapsed between the date on which notice of the motion is given and the date on which the motion is moved. The motion for the adoption of the reports of leadership on the formula for the composition of membership committees, and in particular the committee of selection, may be moved today. I so move. Any seconder?
Right, Honourable Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Motion moved and seconded. It's now for the consideration of the House.
You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Ando Apia. We started off in Parliament where there was a declaration that the NPP plus the independent candidate for representing Fomina represents the majority group in Parliament. We have yet to see whether or not the Speaker will address any of the sides as majority or minority, and we're still keeping our eyes on it. They've been talking about COVID-19. Speaking of which, JoyNews is learning that government has commissioned scientists to investigate if any new strain of COVID-19 has found its way into the country. It is part of government's probe to understand if the rising number of infections and hospitalizations in Ghana has anything to do with the highly contagious new strain in some other countries. Ghana is now facing what virologist Dr. John Amwesi says is a near-crisis situation as the virus continues to spread faster with more symptomatic cases. As many as 40 cases are severe, whilst 4 are critical. Here is a breakdown, the latest figures according to the Ghana Health Authority. Ghana Health Service. Now, 1,404 are the active cases we're dealing with now. Now, that figure has changed dramatically over the past few days. Think about yesterday, we were hovering about 1,300. Today, we're around 1,404. For the new cases that we have recorded, 175. So far, 341 people have died, and we're told that 40 cases are critical. Well, Managing Trustee of the Ghana COVID-19 Private Sector Fund, Senor Hosi, has been speaking about the country's management of the pandemic.
There's a total loss of urgency, and I don't think the government's communication and management of events have really helped heighten the urgency that's required. At the beginning of this entire pandemic and its entry into Ghana, there was a very high sense of caution, and it was because government had heightened the alert level as well as the urgency that was required to deal with it. With the politics coming into play, there's been a major change and shift in that entire phenomenon, and we've seen all of us lowering our guard, and I think that definitely has to change. Our ICUs are full. It's not rocket science. These are facts. This week I have lost 2 friends, and then I've actually had a very close friend lose a niece. So in effect, 3 people very well connected to me all in this week. I've had a lot of cases being reported, and a lot of friends reaching out to me to help them get a bed here or a bed there. It's becoming unsustainable. Our health facilities are getting highly overstretched, and Ghanaians must realize that there's a major urgency at this time, and the politicians and the government people, the public officers, must communicate same so the public can react appropriately. It's just unfortunate. You know, we started this with a lot of testing. We started this with a lot of tracing, a lot of consciousness and awareness, and all of a sudden everything fizzles out. You get COVID today, nobody's going to be asking you who you've been in contact with. Nobody's going to come in to try and test the people you've come into contact with. It's as if nobody cares. It's like as if we are back to business as usual. I mean, that to some extent will be acceptable under certain circumstances, but not under a COVID circumstance. I mean, it definitely goes straight to it goes back to government. First of all, the politics must stop. You know, the politics must stop. The suppression of data must stop. The deliberate, disregard or suspension of tracing to help keep the numbers down must also stop. People really need to know that this is widespread. It is not 1,000 and whatever it is that's being bandied around. This is dishonest. It must stop. Start being truthful with the people so people realize that there's a real urgency in the country. Otherwise, sooner than later, all our health systems are going to crash, and you will not even get health access for simple diseases, even like malaria at some point, because there will be no hospital bed for anybody. Our hospitals will get overrun. So the key thing here is the politics stopping, government taking full responsibility and being honest about what is happening, so we can actually get the right orientation and positioning of the public. We need to review our restrictions and intensify them just like we did in the early days. Our public gatherings, everything is just gone everywhere. We're all doing parties, we're all attending events, we're all having funerals, and funerals have gotten back to the sizes that they used to be. All right, I've been to a few funerals in these past few months, and it's as if we don't have COVID anymore in this country. You know, the restrictions on the number of people gathering must be fully enforced again. All these weddings and all that must also go back to scale.
Daniel Hosi there. Now he's one of the brains behind the 100-bed capacity infectious disease center. So you hear him say that people contact him looking for hospital beds, and he talks about losing people as well close to him. Well, the country's doctors have issued a warning asking every Ghanaian to take their safety into their own hands as they describe the country's COVID situation as alarming and dire. In a statement, the Ghana Medical Association blames the sharp rise in the number of infections on the total disregard for the lack of enforcement of all relevant COVID-19 preventive protocols throughout the country. Also, the importation of cases from other countries. Here is Dr. Amwesi.
Once we reopen schools and there's increased gathering of students and faculty, the cases will go up. I think this goes without saying. It will surely happen. The degree to which they will go up is what we need to be careful about. We have seen here in this country how even after opening, if we do the right things, we only see a very minimal increase in numbers of cases. Point in time is the registration or the opening of the new register, and also the voting. I think we conducted ourselves really excellently with regard to the protocols during the registration exercise and during the voting exercise. That it hardly impacted on the number of cases. So it means that things can be done correctly. Now, what's the ability to do it right? In our settings, it's very difficult to adhere to the physical distancing. To reduce the spread, it's about the mask wearing, the hand washing, general hygiene, and then the physical distancing. This component, the physical distancing, is the difficult part in our setting. Not to speak of the mask wearing, hand washing. I would say emphasize the hand washing, mask wearing, physical distancing. Look, we can only do our best, but the reality is it's almost impossible. And this is what's going to be the hook for us. It will lead to more cases, and so we need to get our isolation centers ready, get our treatments ready, and most importantly, get our testing game on, because it's only when you're doing routine testing of people who may not even be sick, you can catch them early, begin to treat them or isolate them so they don't transmit to other people who may get sicker than they who may not be sick. And this is the way we really need to go about it. We just need to prepare for the upsurge, because this will happen invariably. But it doesn't mean we should not reopen schools.
They've recorded a 339% increase in active cases of COVID-19 in less than a month. That's 339%. Now, active cases rose to 79 from 18 cases recorded before the Christmas festivities. 7 are currently in critical condition. Health authorities in the region say both treatment and testing centers are being expanded in the wake of the increasing cases the Ashanti region has had. The Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrang, explains the measures to help contain the spread.
We intend to open other isolation centers we closed down during the peak period. So we are considering reopening Frimpong Boateng's Memorial Clinic, which will serve for both isolation and then treatment of mild cases. But so far, Kofanochi is admitting cases, and then Kumasi South is also admitting cases. So the cases are going up. As at now, we have 7 people who are on admission. We have 6 at Kofanochi. We have 1 at Kumasi South. There are other cases that are not sick. They are being managed at home. As at now in the Ashanti region, we have 79 active cases. Before the Christmas, the cases were down. We had only 18 active cases. But we believe that with the festivities and people not adhering to the protocols, that's the reason why we are having the numbers going up. And we believe that once the festivities are over and people are adhering to the protocols, we can control the outbreak now. But for the meantime, what we are doing in the region is that we have to make sure that we adhere closely to the 3 pillars that we always talk about. The enhanced hand hygiene protocol. It seems a lot of people have forgotten about it. Now you don't see the sanitizers, you don't see the Veronica buckets. Anywhere you go, it seems that People have completely forgotten it. We should never forget that. The second is the wearing of face mask. Now you go through town and then you realize that we are in trouble in the sense that a lot of people are not wearing the face mask. They've totally disregarded it, most people. And then the social distancing. But the challenge we have is with the organization of funerals and then festivals and other things. You know that with the funerals, at least we are supposed to have a minimum number of people. But you go to funerals and you realize that they've disregarded the protocols completely. There's overcrowding, they are not wearing the face mask and other things. So what we want people to understand is that the COVID-19 is still with us. If we don't adhere to the protocols, the cases will go up.
Well, Dr. Tenkwang observed a decline in adherence to the safety protocols, especially during funerals and other social gatherings. The region intends to reactivate, like you heard him say, the treatment and isolation centers closed after the peak period of the pandemic here in Ghana.
The surveillance system we adopted when we started with the lockdown was that you map up an area whenever there's an infection, and then you go and survey the whole area and then pick the susceptible cases and then you test them. We are not going to do that again. This time we will only look at the contacts. So whenever there's infection, the contact tracing team will go and then interview the contacts and then test the contacts. We have expanded the testing centers. So in Ashanti region, so far we have Konfanochi testing, we have UNST, KCCR also testing, and then we have the Kumasi South Hospital also testing. We are not encouraging private facilities to set up testing centers in Ashanti region because it's like a commercial entity. So the moment it becomes commercial, then the surveillance system is lost. Somebody will go there, will walk in and do the test. Once the test is positive, if he may decide to disclose it or not, and that really poses a lot of challenge. So far in Ashanti region, we've decided that we will use these 3 key testing centers. But as I said, during the Christmas period, we had a lot of social gathering. And you know the incubation period. And so if we are seeing increasing numbers of cases, then it stands to reason that most probably because of the festivities. And also, as we are opening the schools, there's also chances that the social gathering will be more. So you need to strengthen your surveillance system so you can pick all the cases, follow up, and those that will need to go on isolation, you go on isolation. For the meantime, we will open Professor Frimpong Boate's Memorial Center, which will serve for both treatment of mild ailments and then also for isolation, those who will need isolation. It's about 70-bed facility.
Well, right here in Accra, officials of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital have also been speaking about the lack of adherence to the protocols. Dr. Opoku Ware Ampoma is the CEO.
To try and open the new infectious disease center at Ghana to make it fully operational, and we are Kolebu Hospital is supporting them with some staff to help to train because we have more experienced staff here, obviously, and so they are helping to train some of the staff in some of those places so that they can enhance their effectiveness. We had a fire outbreak in our ICU, but we've managed to put it back to, so it's coming back on stream to also support the fight against COVID. And we are also hoping that our own infectious disease treatment unit, which is under construction, will be completed expeditiously so that will also support the case numbers. But the truth is that no matter how many hospital beds that you make available, if we do not adhere to the safety measures, even in the best of countries, you are going to be overwhelmed, because there's no amount of preparation, no amount of infrastructure development that can help prepare you for a pandemic of this nature. And that is how come even the advanced countries who have got more hospitals, more advanced infrastructure are suffering. Some of them are in lockdown as we speak. I'm in touch with some of my colleagues from around the world, UK, France, in the US, etc. And, they are all seriously overstretched as we speak. And the truth is that, we have been a bit lucky in Ghana in the sense that our fatality numbers were low, but that shouldn't make us complacent. And that is where sometimes I think that some of us are being irresponsible. It's true that for young people who do not have pre-existing medical conditions, they may, get the disease and they will shake it off. They'll just like, they feel like they have a bad cold or they have malaria and they'll shake it off. But the truth is that what about the elderly? What about those? There are young people who also have medical conditions. And so would you want that on your account somebody loses their life? Is that the kind of thing you want to have hanging on your conscience? So I think let's all be responsible. The wearing of the face mask does not protect you. It protects the other person. So when I see somebody who is wearing a face mask, it's a sign that that person is responsible. That person is a thoughtful person. That person has empathy. And it doesn't want to be the source of infection for other people. So
that the number of COVID-19 cases in Ghana is going up gradually. This is largely because of the relaxation in the COVID-19 preventive protocols. The Ghana Medical Association is calling on all Ghanaians to observe the necessary preventive measures. Let's wear our face masks when we have to do that. Let's observe the necessary social and physical distances. And above all, let's observe the necessary hand hygiene. Be responsible and keep safe. Thank you.
320 deaths so far due to COVID-19. 48,055 confirmed cases at present. Over 500 active cases confirmed. Many more have not reported for diagnosis, and they live among us, in our homes, our churches, our restaurants, our offices. Would you help prevent this second wave, as many countries in Europe are experiencing second waves? Let's stick to the COVID-19 prevention protocols. Observe strict hand hygiene, wear your face mask, observe social distancing.
Keep your distance. Physical distance is still a must if we must avoid a second wave of COVID-19. Think twice before you join a crowd. Is there enough space for adequate social distancing? Before you speak to anyone, take 3 steps back. They can still hear you. Let's all come together to avoid a second wave of COVID-19.
But I've been infected already. Can I get infected again? If I get infected, would I infect others? Wow, there's a lot we are learning about reinfections. But yes, data suggests that reinfections are possible. Therefore, to err on the side of caution, let's continue to wear our mask, especially in public places. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, avoid crowded areas, and ensure social or physical distancing. Let's help prevent a second wave.
We have seen the impact of COVID-19 on various sectors of our lives. The hard decisions on restriction of movements. It is difficult to predict the outcome of a second wave. Let's all come together, wear our face masks, observe the protocols, hand hygiene, and social distancing. Let's prevent a second wave.
You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and Our story is done so far. The governing NPP plus the Fomena MP independent candidate declared the majority group in Parliament. While we're yet to see whether or not any of the sides will be described as majority or minority in Parliament. There you have live feed from Parliament. They're just rising on a matter. They will be returning. They're on a break. They'll be returning to the House and will be there to give you all the updates. They also talked about COVID-19, which we've looked at. The cases are going up. People are saying they've lost close relatives, and our beds in the hospitals are getting filled up. Still to come, we'll talk about what's happening in Uganda after the elections. Well, early results are coming in, and of course, the incumbent seems to be in the lead. The contender has rejected the results so far. We'll talk about that when we return, plus more. Do stay here with me on The Pulse. And you're welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now let's go to Uganda, because the opposition presidential candidate Bobi Wine says the military entered and took control of his home shortly after declaring he won yesterday's presidential election against incumbent Yoweri Museveni. The government has so far ordered internet blackout as the country awaits the result of the votes. Reports from Uganda say Mr. Museveni has taken an early lead. But the concern now is about how free and fair that election has been. I have in the studio right now a Ugandan. He is Namata Serumaga Mosisi. She is the diaspora coordinator for the People Power National Unity Platform. We'll get her to paint a picture for us what really the situation is from her perspective in Uganda. But tell us a bit more about this group, People Power National Unity Platform. What is it about?
So People Power was the original movement under Bobi Wine, and that was sort of in the realization that the people had been so disempowered by the regime, there was a need to sort of unify us under this sort of new umbrella, if you would like to say that.
So the new umbrella is the National Unity Platform.
And that's correct, yes.
Okay,
and that
so
was the party form of the People Power movement.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm looking at what you're wearing, and it looks similar to what Bobi Wine was. Also, this is a group that is aligned to Bobi Wine.
Yes, we are part of his. Yes, we are his coordinators.
Exactly. Yeah. I just want to be clear so that people can appreciate or have context to the comments that you make.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, what is happening in Uganda right now? How do you see it sitting here from afar?
From a distance. I'd like to give a little bit of context.
Please.
This is not the first time that Museveni, the dictator Museveni, has behaved in this manner.
Okay.
What happens is every time we have an election, the past 2 elections at least, he has lost. It was not to Bobi Wine, it was to another opposition candidate, Kizza Besigye. So we are used to the sort of intimidation, to the sort of abuse of our rights.
When you say he has lost in all of those elections, that was not the declaration of the election regulatory body.
It was not the declaration of the EC, but you always have, essentially the EC has been compromised. And so you find yourself with a situation where you are listening to independent radio stations and you have these polling agents and they're looking at declaration forms, and then somewhere between the point where radio stations are being shut down, somewhere between the point where polling agents for the opposition are being chased away from stations and arrested, and between the announcement, numbers sort of miraculously change to suit the dictator.
I see. Has there been any clear-cut evidence provided to some of these allegations that, of course, have been thrown out there?
Absolutely. There's always been instances where you have footage, for example, film footage of people sort of stuffing boxes, declaration forms being taken, or the military. I'm sure many of your viewers will have seen the number of military vehicles that were rolled out in the days before this current election. Now, the level of violence and sort of intimidation that we've experienced in this one is unprecedented. Even Dr. Kizza Besigye has said that. But essentially, going from the period when you start campaigning up until the point when you actually vote, there is that sort of manipulation there. And then when you arrive in the sort of voting areas, there have been so many instances already captured where people are being sort of intimidated. There were stories of people getting told that your ballot has been pre-ticked for you for the presidential, only vote for the MP. Yes. There's been instances all across the board of so many discrepancies. And one, I believe, in the area that the dictator comes from, they had said something along the lines of, essentially, I think the number they gave of votes that well, they said he got 100% of the votes, but the number they gave was more than the number of actual voters in the constituency or in the polling station.
I mean, that can easily pass for a mistake. I mean, we've seen a bit of that mistake happen in our own elections, and the Electoral Commission has come to correct it subsequently. So it could be a genuine mistake, but you consistently refer to the incumbent president as a dictator. And I just want to, I just want us to clear that up a little bit. Why do you call him a dictator? Because as far as we know, he is in government as an elected leader of Uganda.
Thank you for asking that. It's actually important to clarify it. Yes. So Yoweri Kaguta Museveni came into power by the gun in 1986. We only had our first elections in 1995, or was it 96, around there, right? Ever since he has come into power, everything he has done has been through violent repression. Even when he was fighting in the bush, there was a lot of violence, and it wasn't the sort of violence that you say, oh, it was for a cause, we're liberating a people. It is known that he is a very violent character, and he is the kind of person who is, in his own words, here for himself. He's here for himself and for his family.
Looking at the results that are coming in, obviously people do not agree with you. It looks like he is in the lead so far.
See, this is the thing. The media is compromised. 1, 2, right now there are there are soldiers sitting in the newsrooms. So it's like you and me
soldiers sitting in the newsrooms?
In the newsrooms, preventing people from putting out the results that are coming in.
Are there any, pictorial evidence?
Well, see, this is the problem. There's the internet blackout, right? But you are hearing, so it's really difficult. But people are capturing as much evidence as they can. But for as far as we are hearing, there are soldiers in the newsrooms. People are being prevented from putting out news that is in favor of any of the opposition. And I think a good example would be a journalist, Daniel Lutaya, who was posting results from yesterday afternoon, going into the night. Most of these results, by the way, were pro-Bobby. Honorable Chagulanyi was taking them by a large margin. And this morning, all of that has been deleted.
I see. Where was he posting these?
On his social media. So he was posting them on Facebook, and he was posting. Keep in mind that a lot of these results that were coming out also had the declaration forms to back them up. And so I think what is also important to note is that before the election, because we've watched this film, we've seen how the dictator operates. What we decided to do was, well, some of our team members have created an app, which Bobby launched about a week ago, or announced about a week ago. And essentially with this app, people are able to sort of note any discrepancies they've seen, report any sort of rigging they see. It's called YouVote, right? YouVote-uganda.com. And that's where people are looking at the tallies that we are verifying using the declaration forms that we have seen and that we have access to. And in those ones, there is evidence that we are actually winning by large margin. There was
a little bit of a Facebook, if you like, fight, for lack of a better expression. And I've had the government spokesperson for Uganda say subsequently that Facebook was banned because Facebook then took an action without recourse, an action against the government without recourse to the government. So they banned Facebook. Wouldn't you say that is more like a cause-effect situation, purely cause-effect, because you can't ban us without, recourse to us and then expect us to tolerate you necessarily?
Sure, but as I understand it, they were violating rules. They were using sort of all sorts of images as sort of propaganda, right? So there were things that they were sort of trying to create an understanding of a situation that wasn't the real situation on the ground. Those were the reasons that were given. Now, I am for free speech, and so I understand the concerns that were raised. But I also understand that we have, and this is as a person who's also experiencing it, the way they manipulate the situations, the way they're very organized in the way that they target people and the way they create.
When you say they, you mean government?
The government, under Museveni, yes. Yeah. Look, it's really, and I think also, all of these things aside, one thing I just really do want to highlight is that everything that we look at right now, we need to also look at in the context of the campaign. If you think about the fact that just a week ago, was it a week or 2 weeks ago, over 100 of Bobby's campaign team were abducted. They were off to a campaign location. He was arrested. They were all arrested. And now Bobby's best friends and campaign team and his security were all taken. They have not been released. Many of them were granted bail, but they will not release them. Right? The women were stripped naked in their cells.
Who was stripped naked?
The women of the team, the campaign team. You're looking at, for example, the young nurse Joy Strong.
I see.
You see, so this is what's been happening. A few days before that, Francis Sentaza, who was also one of Bobby's security guards, had been killed when a military car drove over him and then reversed.
I mean, these are, so I just need to make this clear that we don't have the government side on this platform at the moment, but we're speaking to a Ugandan who's, speaking about her perspective of what is happening in Uganda, and I've of course asked for a bit of evidence. What do you think has to happen for for the country to move forward from here? Of course, we have to wait for the election results. And so far, it looks like, I mean, your candidate has rejected the initial result so far. But what do you see going forward?
Well, I think everyone can agree, regardless of which party, save for perhaps Museveni's NRM, that Museveni has to go. It has been 35 years.
And if he doesn't?
Well, if he doesn't, he's going to have to be made to leave, unfortunately. And that's what, I mean, you know, you've seen the hashtag, we are removing a dictator. We can't sit in a nation where 18 women are dying every day in childbirth. We can't sit in a nation where we are being sent into debt for his personal pocket and his own purposes. We can't be sitting with those levels of corruption and that level of murder and destruction of a nation that should be prospering. We can't just sit there and accept it. It is now time for us to enter the new Uganda. We need to find a way in which the people are allowed to reclaim what is theirs, whether it's the resources, whether it's your power. We need to be able to say, this is our Uganda, and this is how we are moving forward.
Okay. This is all time will allow us for now, but the elections, the results are hopefully still trickling in back home in Uganda, and hopefully we'll get some, I don't know what to say, but hopefully we'll get some of those figures to be able to share with you as we go along. I've been talking to Namata Serumaga Musisi. She's a diaspora coordinator for People Power National Unity Platform. They are a group that's affiliated with the contender in this election, Bobi Wine. You seem to want to say something? I've run out of time, but I can do that in 30 seconds if you can.
Very quickly, please. What I think is important is that Africans need to keep their eyes on Uganda. The situation there is very tense. We don't know what is going to happen, and we have seen sort of precedent actions which tell us that it's not going to go well if we do not have the support of the people around us. So Africans, please keep your eyes on Uganda. You need to stand with Uganda. We can't have lives being taken from us like this. Stand with Uganda. Please stand with Uganda. Thank you.
Stand with Uganda, she says. Like I said, the figures are still trickling in. We'll see how it goes at the end of the day. This is still The Pulse with me, Gifty and Opia. By the way, this video will be on demand on YouTube. If you want to take a look at it once again, please do. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we have sports here on The Pulse.
Very much for staying here with us on the Joy News channel and Joy Sports. My name is Nathaniel Atto, and I'm bringing you this special edition. And this is coming to you from the Bronx Gym here in Accra. Well, it's led by an executive committee member of the Ghana Boxing Authority, who is a seasoned trainer, the first trainer of former world champion Richard Comey, and many other boxers who have followed, in that line. Well, today we're throwing the focus on something special that he's doing here, aside preparing a lot of these very talented professional boxers, for their exploits. Now, he's training his own son, Hakim Ninote Loko, who's a juvenile boxer and is looking forward to doing great things. He's already started collaborations with foreign-based Ghanaian-born juvenile boxers, and together they want to do great things and be seen and known as the next generation of very competitive boxers who will win Ghana laurels. So come along with me on this journey as I take you through what's happening here in the Bronx Gym here in Accra, founded by Carl Loko, the seasoned trainer. All right, thank you very much for staying here with us on this special edition as we focus on boxing and the grooming of talents for the next generation, the young talents who will take up the reins in the next few years. So once again, I'm in the gym that is owned and run by Carl Loco. Carl Loco is known here in Ghana for producing many big talents, one of them being former IBF champion Richard Comey. Well, now he's taken special interest in one of his sons, and he is Hakim Ninote Loco. He's 13 years of age and has an interesting story to tell. Good to have you here on the show. How are you doing?
Good.
Okay, great. Tell me when you decided to start boxing and how training under your father is like.
I started boxing when I was 4 years.
Oh,
so
wow.
One day I told my dad I want to train. So my dad said, let's start.
Wow. So how easy is it to combine, boxing with school?
It's very hard, but I try.
I see. On a normal day, how does your training go? What exactly do you do when you come to the gym?
I do some physicals, pad reps, sparring, a lot.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me about your idol. Who is your big idol that you look up to, that you want to become like?
I look up to Aikwate.
Aikwate? Why? Tell me why. Why?
Because I love his jabs and his skills.
So do you watch some of his fights on yes. on YouTube?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Do you have a favorite Aikwate fight?
Yes.
Which one of them is that?
Oscar Diallo.
Oh, okay. But he lost that fight. How did you feel about it?
Because of the passion and the of the passion and the skills.
I see. Very well. So, what do you want to achieve in boxing? What is your dream in boxing?
I want to become a world champion in the world.
I see. Very well. Very great. Carl, great job that you've done so far. It's been a long journey that you've traveled. Now you're working with your own son. Tell me how different it will be from anybody else. Is there any difference?
That would be different because he's lucky to have his father who is a trainer. He's lucky to have a father that is staying with his sleep and wake up with his father. And when it comes to boxing, he can ask any question that he wants to ask at any time without hesitating, because you have a father who is a trainer, you want to become a world champion. And that is a plus for you, that not all the boxers will have that privilege. So that is the only difference that I can say that will give him the edge or the advantage. And it is a challenge to him to choose boxing because his father is a trainer. So expectation will be big and great on him. So that is why I also have to take him serious, and just be focused, because boxing is my passion, as you know.
Wow. Tell me about the decision, and when he said he started at age 4. What did you see in him before that? Was it something that he developed naturally, or you started teaching him gradually to get him to get interested?
I will never say I started teaching him gradually, because, like I said again, he's a kid who was growing up to see his father getting up, from bed, trying to go to his work, like going to training, picking up your pad and your tools. All the time I call it tools because that's what we use. He will follow me even when he was not even walking. So he will come with me to this gym and start crawling over here when I'm training. So keep doing that up to the age of 4, and he start making signs that he wants to do it. And I asked him, are you sure? He said, yes. I said, then fine. Then I'm looking up to you. I'm ready for you. So honestly, from 4 years, he started making the sign fully, so I start training him from there.
I see. He mentioned Aikwate. Obviously, at age 13, if I'm calculating, by the time, he was born, Aikwate's career was almost over. How did he manage to develop that interest in someone whose career was done by the time he was born?
Yeah, at least, like I said again, he's having a father who is doing boxing before he was born. So that tells you, I talk to him a lot. I give him the chance to watch a lot of the boxing. I give him a list of boxers to watch currently and previous. So he developed to start following Aikwate. And I was asking him why. He said, no, coach. He called me coach at that time. Coach, the way he jab is very strong. And I said, look at your body. You're talking about somebody jab is strong. So at least he proved to me the reason why he was following and want to be like Aikwate. At first, he normally talks about something like Deontay Wilder, but whatever the case, he's not a big weight for now. But it's good. He has somebody that is what's going on. But he has developed to follow Iquote, to fight like Iquote. So that means he has a lot to do. As we all know, the passion, the effort that I put in his fight, the time. So I just have to allow him to follow whoever he chooses to follow.
Now, what is the plan for him now? I've realized that he has started some collaborations with, another young boxer, Awinonja, outside of Ghana, and they're collaborating gradually to see what they can do together. What is the plan for himself and the likes of Awinonja out there who are all looking forward to becoming great?
Yeah, once again, he's lucky. Hakim is lucky again to have a father who is a trainer, and he has chosen to be a boxer. I'm a friend or a colleague of Joseph Awinonja Senior for so many years now that we are pushing Ghanaian boxers forward. We used to talk a lot, and now it's fantastic. It's to see him also that having a son who is also pursuing the career of boxing at almost the same age like my son. So that gives us the idea and the plan that, hey, what can we do? What do we have to do to help the boys, our kids to grow? So we have to do this kind of program. So he made it clear with his son that they would like to invite him to the US for him to come and join him over there for the training regime to be going on. This plan was there for a long time, but because of this pandemic, to be honest, you can't force something. So we have to keep training, keep doing everything, and look up to next year. So it is confirmed. Hakim will be joining Joseph Jr. In the States very soon, somewhere this year. Okay, and obviously you are also targeting the national team, right? Yeah, great. You want to enter the national team and go for games and all of that, right?
I've already entered.
Okay. And how is the experience like in the national team?
Very, very good.
I see. Yeah. Okay, let's see how it goes. Okay, all the best. Yeah.
So, like you said, he's lucky. On his regime now, we have the juvenile national team that they are training under Charles Quote. And if you are lucky to find yourself in that team as a juvenile, it's a plus for you. So he knows he has a challenge already. Being a national team, people want to be there. So you have to work hard. If not, you come out.
Okay. Let's see how all of it goes. Nikal, all the best with it. I'm sure that within the next, 5 years or more, we should see him shape up nicely, I guess.
For sure, like you said, you asked him. And definitely, if you want to become a world champion, you cannot just get up and be a world champion. You have to make sure you enter to the Greater Accra team as an amateur. You have to make sure you enter into, the national team. You have to make sure it goes to, Zona, Africa, Commonwealth, international games, talking about the Commonwealth Games and talking about the Olympic Games. Then that means you are being prepared towards your dream. So we're looking up to that.
Right, so we're still here in the Bronx Gym, talking about boxing development and the next generation of young boxers. We're throwing the focus on Hakim Ninote Loko, who's the son of Carl Loko, the owner of this gym. Now, I've just bumped into a few older folk who normally come here, and they're going to tell me what they make of his talent. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay, what's your name again?
My name is Mustafa.
Okay, Mustafa, tell me what you see in this talent and this young man that you've been following for a while now.
Okay, so I have been following boxing for quite some time now. I like for boxing Ghana as well. And I normally go to the various gyms in Ghana, hunting for talent, juvenile boxers and all of that. I have followed Carl Loko very well and the developments in the gym. Particular interest was his son, because I see Carl Loko have a lot of talent in him. And if he's developing the son, what is in the son that makes him have so much interest in the son? I followed him. One body talent. He's a wit boxer. He's growing, and I think that we should look at him with a different eye that we look at all other boxers. Today, I have realized something that is different from everything that I've seen in juvenile boxing. He's sharp. Today, I realized also that the boy said his role model is Iquote, and that speaks big about this boy. That speaks big about the dream that he has for himself and how he wants to take boxing to the next level. Wow. I will be following with a very close eye, like an eagle eye, watching the space to see what is going to come out from Hakim Loko.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Now, you tell me as well, what's your name again?
Dauda Hussaini.
Dauda, tell me, I mean, Mustafa has spoken about what he's realized of his talent and how sharp he is and all of that. What do you also have to say about him?
Okay, actually, like I said, I'm Dauda Hussaini, and I'm a recent promoter in the manager as well. I'm managing boxers like the likes of Patrick Okine and a few others. And Kaloko happens to be a very close pal and a partner as well. This boy, I should say, is privileged to have somebody like Kaloko because I know what he can do and the extent to which he can reach. So this boy, I can stand here and say with authoritatively that he's going to become one of the greatest boxers Ghana has ever produced. Because I know I've been with him a couple of times outside the shores of Ghana and I know what he can do and what he has in him. So if he said he's going to impact all those things in this boy, then the sky will be his limit. And I know he has the endurance to take it along.
All right, thank you very much. So, touch gloves knee. There we go. And thank you so much, Carl. So, there it is. This young man here is representing what we see as the future of Ghana boxing. Himself and a few others, including Joseph Awinonja Jr., who's in the US, are starting up a partnership of training where they'll be having exchange programs. Well, let's see what comes out of all of this. And of course, we'll have to remember these days because maybe, just maybe, we could end up seeing him and a few others mount the big podiums to take medals at multi-sport events that will come up in the next few years. Well, it's been a special edition here on Joy Sports and Joy News, and I'm always glad to be in your company. I'm always glad to bring you such special editions. Well, we're going to be doing some more of this as we go along, but here from the Bronx Gym in Accra, my name is Nathaniel Atto, and I have love for sport.
And here's where we call it a wrap. There's more news on myjoyonline.com, and I'll urge you to log on, share the link with your colleagues, let them know what's happening. Also, we've got this video on demand on our YouTube channel. If you want to take a look at the show again, it repeats later at 12 a.m. and also, like I said, on YouTube on demand. My name is Gifty Andopia. Have yourself a great weekend.